Hi, Autumn Ridge. This is Pastor Rick. I'm glad to be able to come to you today and share with you the latest update on what's happening with our church. And I'm grateful to have next to me Dr. Steve Mary. He is an elder here at Autumn Ridge and the head of our COVID task force. Steve, thanks for being here.
Happy to be here, Rick.
These are interesting times, aren't they?
Fascinating.
Everything is upside down.
Indeed.
When a pastor comes in, you're supposed to build relationships and build trust and slowly change things after a long period of time.
Rather than isolate them.
And now I'm making all kinds of changes and easing into relationships. It's so weird. I don't preach on Sunday, I preach on Thursday. And by the way, I think you're going to see this before you see the message on Thursday. I had a gaffe. Please forgive me. I was talking about government and I said, bad government's better than no government. If you don't believe me, go to a place like Somalia or Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a fantastic country. We have missionaries there. And so please forgive me for that. That was a mental fade in that moment. But That's not what this is about. This is about how these are interesting times in a different way. We're trying to navigate what is the wise and loving thing to do in the middle of a global pandemic. And our church has been guided by a commitment to love and wisdom. And that commitment has been framed by three values: honor the best medical information, honor elected leaders, and honor each other. Now, Steve, over these past several weeks and these past 2 months, you've been my medical tutor. I don't think I'm ready for the MCATs yet, but I have learned a lot of stuff.
Study, Rick.
I'm learning. All right, so as we are navigating what to do, would you share with us what are some of the medical reasons that if we honor those medical reasons, they continue to guide us to be slow and not open up yet?
So, Rick, this deadly disease it spreads incredibly effectively in large indoor gatherings of people. So the very reason we stopped meeting 2 months ago is the reason we should not yet meet together in the auditorium.
Can I interrupt you?
Please.
Things have changed politically.
Indeed.
But the facts, the medical facts, have not yet changed.
Indeed, they haven't changed except they've grown, so we have lots more information.
Okay.
So I'd like to share some of that information with you about why we should still stay closed. So, second reason is, this isn't about churches or individual freedom, it's about the virus, the disease. And so the very reason that Mayo Clinic doesn't have conference in-person meetings anymore is why we shouldn't either yet. The third reason is because this virus is presently spreading in the community and the case numbers are increasing in Minnesota, this is the wrong time to be opening up our church.
Would you let me interrupt you one more time?
Please.
So a lot of people are saying, people are soon going to be able to go to restaurants or people are going to grocery stores. That's safe. No one's singing in the grocery store, right?
Right.
There are no hugs. There's no, people are staying distant.
Yes.
There's not a lot of projection with people talking and singing in the grocery store.
And there's not a crowd together for an hour.
These are big differences.
Huge.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we've learned in these past 2 months, two medical facts that are incredibly important to understand the reasoning behind not yet opening those doors for people to come in. The first is much of the infection, the spread outside of the home, occurs during the asymptomatic phase of the illness. People are infectious for 2 to 3 days prior to symptom onset, and that continues but falls after the symptoms begin over a couple of days. So people are spreading without knowing it. It's a horrible disease that way, and the reason why we're seeing this pandemic continue.
Can I summarize it this way?
Yes.
When you feel the best, it's actually when you're at your worst.
You may well be spreading disease, which leads to the second fact, which is good news. These things, masks, simple cloth masks or surgical masks, are incredibly effective at catching droplets coming out of my mouth so that if I am asymptomatic and spreading, I won't give you disease.
We didn't talk about this.
Yes.
I'm going to spring something on you.
Please.
Yesterday, I was in a store which will not be named. And the gal behind the counter who was accepting payment had a mask on, but it was like this.
Oh, right.
Is that acceptable?
Better than none.
Okay, it's better than none.
So it's catching her droplets coming out of her mouth, but if she sneezes, there are going to be droplets that can project in JAMA study up to 27 feet. I mean, they go way out there, but the mouth is the main way. Yes.
Keep it over the nose too.
and it would be nice to be tight. Absolutely. Okay. So asymptomatic spread, masks highly effective. So Autumn Ridge Church, everyone should be wearing a mask when you're outside the home with other people. Now, there are some things we don't know yet, which we need to learn before we open.
What are some of those things?
So the first of those is it safe? Does disease transmission happen if we, number one, probably the first step, gather outdoors in a large group? So can we, wearing masks, sit 6 feet apart in our family groups, having washed our hands and being home if we're ill, and safely have church? Probably.
We'll experiment with that first before we bring people inside.
And in low numbers, gradually increasing. That's the wisdom behind doing this in stages.
Okay, so people understand.
Yes.
It's giving us an opportunity to learn.
Yes.
We want to be leaders, right? Leaders want to go first.
Yes.
But we don't want to be foolish and experiment with other people's health who are trusting us. And so that's why we're asking people to get together, wear masks 6 feet apart in groups of 10 or less, allow us to learn so as we expand, we can do so with confidence, knowing we're not jeopardizing your health or the health of people who you love.
Beautiful. That's exactly it. What we certainly do not know is whether we can get together in our auditorium, even with masks on, and be safe.
So for people who say, I think that it is safe, I hope they're right.
Yes.
In 10 years from now, we might look back and laugh, and we might say the people who said we could have gotten together, maybe they were right.
But we dozens of cases and news stories of churches all over the world, were even up to, in Korea, thousands of people were infected by an asymptomatic individual. Mean to do that now would be foolish and unloving.
If you haven't read any of the articles that Steve is talking about, there are churches who decided to get together, and accidentally, people got sick. Some people died. Those churches are now having to do funerals because they raced ahead an opening. Right. We don't want to do that.
Well, and some of the pastors are dead.
Some of the pastors are dead.
We took a long time getting you here, so let's not do that.
I'm not done yet.
Thank you.
All right, Steve, I appreciate this.
So I've got a curveball for you.
Hit me.
All right. So we've got differing advice, different orders from different political individuals. How do we navigate these waters? How do we do the right thing when we're getting different messages?
All right, so you spent a long time talking about, in a very helpful way, how to honor the best medical information. I want to talk about how to honor our elected leaders. And we're in an awkward position because our elected leaders at different tiers of authority and power disagree with each other. And yet I'm convinced we can still honor them even if we can't follow the leadership of all of them because they're in contradiction. So here's how we honor them. This is how I'd like to do it. Okay. For the president, thank you for identifying us as essential. I think we are essential. I appreciate that. To our governor, thank you for wanting to be cautious and to make sure we don't put anybody in jeopardy. I appreciate that. We are going to continue to operate as though we're essential. By the way, our church isn't closed.
Right.
Believe it or not, more people are engaging with our services every weekend.
Thousands.
Than ever have in the history of our church. Right. Ministry is going forward in significant ways, in big ways. Subscribe to the Connect article. Watch us on Facebook. We're posting this information. It'll be posted over the next several weeks. I think you're going to be incredibly encouraged. ABC wants to broadcast our next message series for 10 weeks.
That's great.
So our church's impact, our influence, our ability to love and care for this community and globally is continuing. We are not slowing down. We're just not together in large groups. All right, so we can honor the president and we can honor our governor. They're in contradiction, but we're united in our approach.
Yes.
All right, here's the second thing. Politics tend to inflame things. Let's choose to be the adults in the room who don't get inflamed. Let's be quick to listen, slow to speak. Let's do our best to understand and not be quick to judge. We're in the middle of something where there is a tension. And you're going to see that different churches, different religious organizations, different leaders approach this differently. Those differences are going to become more apparent. What you will never hear from me, what you'll never hear from any of the leaders here is we'll never criticize the intelligence, the integrity, or the intention of other leaders. But we will be clear about why we do what we do. So let me be clear about why we do what we do. We're in a time of tension. If you have to make a choice, choose love over rights, right? And that is not a political statement. That is the gospel. If you read Philippians 2, Jesus gave up his rights and his privileges so that he could serve us, sacrifice for us, give his life for us, so that he could extend to us what only he deserved. That's the gospel. And so if Jesus loved all of us that way, it's my commitment, I know it's your commitment.
As little Christ to be the same.
It will be the commitment of our church to love others the same way.
Yeah.
Love and rights are not always in tension. Right now it feels like they are. Let's be the people who choose to love instead of elevating our rights as the highest value. Your rights are important, my rights are important, but if we live as though our rights are the highest value, we are actually living in contradiction to the way that Jesus relates to us and loves us.
That's an important message. Thank you.
Steve, I appreciate everything that you've shared. There are a lot of people who are working with you, who are helping us stay on the rails of love and wisdom, and I just want to say thank you.
Yes, thank you, team.
To the team. Steve, do you have any other questions? Is there anything we need to add before we wrap up?
I just feel sorry for Ethiopia. But
we love Ethiopia. Yeah. Ethiopia is a fantastic country. All right, everyone, wear your masks, stay safe, and continue to pray for us, continue to pray for our country, continue to pray for our leaders. They're in a hard position too.
They really are.
All right.
Thank you, Rick.